What's up, folks, and welcome back for another review of Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. Nigeria Miranda here, and we are ready to get into tonight's episodes. We are, how many nights?
16 nights away
from Bound for Glory. And of course, we'll be covering that, so definitely stay tuned for that review, as that's going to be Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, and we're totally hyped for it, and we're going to break it down, give you all the analysis of that big special night. It's still so unreal that we're not doing it in person, whether it's just me and you in person or just at the event. It's just COVID stuff. I'm a little over it now. Of course, I'm still wearing a mask, but like I'm still like just a little bit like I want to get back to this, you know.
I get you. I feel you here. It's going to be very different not being there live, but you know, Impact is really hyping this up. And I know we're going to be talking about tonight's show and the road to Bound for Glory, but yeah, it's definitely different this year.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to be honest. Tonight's show was not all that to me. There were some things I liked, for sure. But as a complete show, this one didn't absolutely execute it for me. So, with that being said, I'm going to do this show just a little different than we usually do. Kind of still on par on how we do it, but just a little bit different. And I am going to start off by talking about something I like, and then I'll instantly give it to you, and you can talk about something you like. And then if we run out of likes, then
we're going to the dislikes. Unless it's going to be pretty short of likes.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with Madman Fulton versus Doc Gallows. Now, this was a big heavyweight match here. The two of the tallest, biggest athletes in all professional wrestling, yet alone in Impact Wrestling. You know, if you've been watching, that I'm big on Madman Fulton. His ceiling is definitely waiting for him to break through it. And I think this singles match, first of all, him having, I don't know, maybe you guys can check me, but I've never heard his entrance music until tonight. This seems like to be the first night that he's had.
I think this is the first time we've heard his entrance music, in this iteration on the roster. And I believe I saw a fact somewhere saying that this is his first singles match since 2013 in Impact Wrestling.
That is right. So, you know, it was exciting to see that. Nonetheless, I loved the match because I loved how it boosted both of them, and it told the story overall for the big match for Bound for Glory. But Madman Fulton, I think, has endless potential, and Gallows and Anderson, they've been all around the world, and I think whenever you put them in the ring with somebody, you always got to like give it a little bit of a. You have to give it like a little bit extra respect to it, because nonetheless, not just because they work for promotion, they want to work with the best. And this Gallows and Madman Fulton, that's kind of been being built for a little while. And you can tell it's something that they both wanted to do. And they really, it was the way how it was done. It made both of them look strong. And ultimately, again, Gallows being the veteran here, it elevates Madman Fulton to me. I mean, again, all the accolades in the world are on the back of Gallows and Anderson. And so when you have them in the ring with somebody else, there's always just a little bit added respect to that competitor, because of the idea of that if you can hold your own against somebody like them, then you are either a star, a potential star, and you're obviously on your way. And I think that speaks to Madman Fulton. And I've just been somebody who's just waiting to see him truly get his big push and big run. And this is just another good stat. And I love the tag stuff that he's doing, obviously, with Ace Austin. So I was high on this match because it made both of them look strong. As a fan of Madman, I think it elevates him. And I want more of this. Right now it's not on tap, because you got to use beer puns when you're talking about Gallows and Anderson. But eventually I would love for this to come back around, or ultimately I just can't wait to see Madman in the championship contention. So, it's singles championship contention, because the dude has the talent, the ring presence, the gimmick works, everything about her. I know people love the Sid and Psycho Sid. God, I'm drawing a blank. The Michaels.
Oh, Shawn Michaels and Diesel comparison.
Diesel, thank you, comparison. And I don't get that from him, because like Diesel was like the hitman on the side that we all knew who had the talent, but he was like, you handle all the heavy work and I'll just sit back. And I see just, personally me, I see just two stars who are attached to each other who both can benefit from it. Much like Ace Austin said, a partnership, not a sidekick. So I was very high on this display tonight from the two of those big monsters.
Yes, I agree. I think this was one of Madman Fulton's best matches in Impact, and I really love the dynamic of this evolving into a street fight where you have the chairs and the I think there was a parking sign in there or a crutch, all of that, because it really did show Madman in exactly the element he should be displayed in, as a huge beast, someone who's, you know, beyond intimidating and vicious. And even though he lost going through those two chairs with that double-handed choke slam, like that looked insanely vicious. Like no one could kick out of that. So I think that this was a beautiful, beautiful showcase for Madman, and it was the perfect competitor in Doc. You know, like I mean, the size, the experience. It was a really, usually with having two tall men like that, it's a slow match. It can sometimes be boring.
True.
It can be, you know, I thought the pacing of this was really, really great. And the added element of this street fight was beautiful because they built up to this for weeks between these two teams. So there was also a lot of anger and aggression buried deep in there that they finally got to let out. So I definitely liked this match.
I just want to add one other thing, too. I mean, I know, you know, in professional wrestling, we always like to talk about the hybrid athletes. And when you talk about that, you talk about people like Keith Lee, Willie Mack, you know, the big guys who can do the small guy things. But there's not a lot of that hybrid talk when it comes down to the really tall guys who can do smaller guy things or just really quick on their feet and agile because, you know, those athletes do exist. Madman and Doc are definitely two of those ones who aren't just traditional big guys. They actually are very agile, very quick on their feet, very good with their hips. And what I mean by that is that they position themselves really good for taking bumps and giving blows. And I think that's something that's just super underrated as to why Gallows' career is as long as it is, and because of his conditioning and because he's just one of those hybrid type of guys who can work with anybody in the ring. And again, when you have two big guys, this wasn't slow at all. It wasn't just a blow for blow, you know, who can throw the biggest and heavy punch to a couple of big kicks, whatever it may be. These were truly very unique style of wrestling going on here. I mean, you know, it wasn't like it was pure wrestling, and it wasn't like it was catch wrestling or anything, but it was this big man new hybrid style of wrestling where it could go anywhere in the ring. And you know, and they did not look like big men moving slow. They were like big guys doing smaller guys things to a smaller guy, but the guys were actually bigger than each other.
Huge, huge guys.
I enjoyed it, but you're go now.
Yeah, so this is part of it I liked. Maybe not the whole thing, maybe not how we've gotten to this point, but I feel like they're making a turning point with Rich Swann. I feel like this is the Rich Swann we should have been seeing in the past weeks. Ready to go, vicious, combative, you know, it's still a weird story, a roundabout way with his leg and how we got to this point, but the energy and the vibe that Rich Swann had tonight is the Rich Swann that I want to see, someone that I can get behind. Luckily, there's still time. It's not too late. But this is the Rich Swann we should have been seeing weeks ago. So I'm kind of happy that they finally turned the corner with him. No more limping to the ring. No more selling this leg injury. Let's just have this be about a strong, fierce, young competitor coming after Eric Young.
All right. Very well. Well, my next thing will be the turning point of somebody else who's been under my microscope for a little while. And this person was part of the three-way tag match with Kiera Hogan, Tasha Steelz, Havok, Nevaeh, Rosemary, and Taya Valkyrie. And the person I'm speaking about here is Nevaeh. I've always said that Nevaeh, you know, and sure, her and Havok has worked all over the indies together, but and Havok's gimmick's been mostly the same, about 95% the same in every place she's wrestled. But to be paired with Havok in Impact, I think there's just a little added needed aggression with their partner. Havok is respected as the big monster, fearless, hell, strikes fear in everyone else.
Yeah.
And easily can take over any match. And her having being a singles competitor this entire time, that was the dynamic. It's already dangerous by herself. You add somebody to it, it's obviously the icing on the cake. No matter who it is. It could be, what's his name? With the photographer with a K. Caleb with a K. It could be Caleb with a K here, and it still would be added being next to Havok. Nevaeh, I've always been saying, like, Nevaeh was giving me that, like, I'm just happy to be here type of person. I'm like, well, cool and all, but, like, you're next to the monster Havok. You need to dig deep into your inner monster to sell me at this tag team. Yes. And today, everything was clicking for Nevaeh for me. Everything. The look, even coming out to the ring, the one thing I've always been really critical of, I was like, Havok looks serious. The music, the entrance, everything works. And she comes out and you can tell it just clicks. And Nevaeh just was just like, oh, I'm just here with my best friend, you know. But today was a tag team. I almost want to say the tag team was born because they came out, the aggression was there, they were in sync. Nevaeh gave a good outing in the ring, and good tag team wrestling with the two of them. Even the chemistry was up.
Yeah,
good for her. Although you know this match going into Bound for Glory. This was the little added piece that just needed to come together to make the competition even that more fierce. That now you legitimately think that any one of these tag teams could win, because you know the psychology here in tag team wrestling is like, well, who's the strongest competitor? Well, that's a hard one to tell. There, it could be Havok, it could be Taya, it could be Rosemary who's picking up all the win, it could be Tasha Steelz or Kiera Hogan. But I don't see Nevaeh winning here. I don't see her picking up the pinfall. But I do see her being the one who may give somebody a 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Now I look at it like, oh, everybody can legitimately pick up a win. Yeah. I don't see who takes the pinfall here. Because, like, this is a big match. So taking a pinfall here is a staple of you're going to remember, like, this is who won and that's who beat that person. So I absolutely love it. I'm just that much more excited about the ramifications of this match now that Nevaeh, I feel like, stepped up, getting her groove, and good for her. Absolutely good for her. Welcome to the party.
Yes, I absolutely agree. She really shined. This is probably one of her better matches, if not the best one. Again, you know, that's kind of an interesting dynamic throughout tonight where there was people who we don't really get to see in that one-on-one action or have that time in the ring. And they stepped up their game. And I absolutely believe the same with Nevaeh this week. There was just a change in her that shone through the ring. And now she's not just Havok's partner, but she could be her own individual force to be reckoned with. Speaking of the Knockouts division and kind of this newborn aggression, Kylie Rae, you know, I was a little curious at the beginning of the match when she came out as Smiley Kylie, but there was a switch. You know, when she finished that match with Kimber Lee and had that lock in, you could tell her face changed. And that's the aggression. That's the Kylie Rae that really needs to come to Bound for Glory for Deonna Purrazzo. And the fact that she didn't even break the lock, that Deonna had to come in to break it, like that, to me, shows that we're getting a new side to Kylie Rae that she really needs to go explore and go deep in order to be a true competitor for Deonna Purrazzo. So I think too this change with Kylie is just what it's needed, and it's kind of strange. I don't know if they're going to play into this more, but almost thinking about a Susie-esque twist where she comes out and she's smiling and she's happy to be there, and then snap, she changes. Just like we've been saying with Susie. So I don't know if that's intentional, but I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I've been very curious about this one because Kylie Rae's always been Smiley Kylie as long as I've ever seen her wrestling. Aggression, sure, I've seen her aggressive in matches, but as a gimmick change, Not even a thought. I mean, the Smiley Kylie thing just works. It sells. And she's just one of the best in the world. Now to kind of see something different here, I can't even explain to you how intrigued I am. Mm-hmm. And the fact that like what's happening with her is almost like the booking of what we were saying should happen to Susie. It's getting kind of wild here. And Susie kind of brushing off on her. I don't know. I'm all in for that. Look, I'm going to add something else to my positive here, and it's the other person in this match. Kimber Lee. It's always been the forgotten one of all the new signees, and I've been telling you all that she is legit. She's legit, and I believe that she's in the best shape of her career. And I know that's a saying that a lot of people just say just whatever, but if you know her story, then you know easily that she's in the best shape of her career, and she's confident. And she's back to A1 where when I first seen her. I mean, when it was Kimber Lee and Hottie Lovelace, who was just and who's known as Ruby Riott, was just killing it on the indies, and they were the two hottest wrestlers, not just women's wrestlers, but wrestlers in all of independent wrestling. And I'm seeing her channel that Kimber Lee again. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about this was a pay-per-view-esque match tonight with Kylie Rae. Of course she couldn't win. I mean, possibly. I was even convinced that they might have went that way. But obviously we know that the money is still always to be made with Deonna Purrazzo and Kylie Rae. But I'd be damned if I ain't going to say that Kimber Lee held her absolute own in that match. Everything was clicking. When you talk about good wrestling, it's all about the psychology between the two. And they were so cohesive together. Very fluid, very swift. Everything was crisp. It was amazing. It was amazing. And the biggest part for me is that it didn't do everything for me, which I hope it did for everybody else. I hope this was an eyebrow raiser to people to say like, oh shoot, she can go. She's in there with the number one contender who she easily could have just beat if it just wasn't for the fact that Bound for Glory is right around the corner. Like if this had just been 2 months ago or a month ago, this could have went either way when it comes down to what's the story going with this? What's the booking? Like this could have easily been a Kimber Lee win here. But I just, like I said, this right here, I hope for viewers realize and put some respect on her that Kimber Lee is legit. And that was a very damn good match with the two of those ladies.
Yeah, I think overall it was a good night for the Knockouts division, as always. You know, they had two really strong matches. They got to showcase, you know, the majority of the division. And again, it's one of almost the best kept secrets in pro wrestling, which shouldn't be a secret because, you know, they are out there every week doing amazing dynamic work, whether it's tag team, singles competitions. They're elevating women that we've seen on the independent scene for years. And they're finally getting an awesome showcase. So, I mean, once again, the Knockouts division is a cornerstone of Impact Wrestling. And if you're looking for good women's wrestling, go and watch Impact Wrestling. We tell it to you every week. We're probably preaching to the choir right now. So this is not just for those who watch every week. You guys are doing your job. It's everybody else that has yet to come to this. Go watch Impact Wrestling for the Knockouts division. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yep. Tell your mom and tell your daddy, tell your friends.
Tell your neighbor, tell the postman, tell, you know, whoever, just text it too. You can text it, email, post it on social, whatever it is. Just spread the word.
Absolutely. I am out of goods.
That was it. No, I think that's kind of fair. There wasn't a whole lot in this episode. Even things that I've been liking lately, I haven't been super keen on. And I'm just gonna jump first is you know, EC3 and Moose. You know, this was one that I've really been enjoying, but now I feel like they're stuck. Even though this was supposed to be a big night where we finally got the full confrontation and they were fighting, there were so many things off of it. You know, the fact that some storyline continuity, one, EC3 dropped this belt in a river last week, and now magically, one, he's still at the same river, and two, he has the belt. So that was never explained. And I just didn't quite feel the animosity, the intensity between these two when the confrontation finally happened. I mean, EC3 is still killing it in promos, and Moose is actually pretty good in his promos as well. But there was something that just didn't click when they finally fought on that bridge. It just felt like it was whether it was the spacing of it, maybe because it was a cinematic match, but also because it was cinematic, at least that confrontation was cinematic, that there would have been better pacing or better placement of where they were fighting, and it just felt like it was too much of a crowded space, and it didn't really feel like a good fight. So I was really disappointed in this confrontation.
Yeah. Very big on this. Talked about it even on my weekly podcast. Very high on EC3, despite what everybody else feels. This period. As far as our reviews here, been saying I want to see him get physical. It's about that time for us to see what he can do. But everything about how this segment was done, wasn't a fan of. Dark, like you said, it should not have been mystery about what's happening between the two of them. And as far as the low light shots and just really like the unknown and just the mind bending factor of like what's happening, what's the deal with the belt reappearing, like. Let's keep it clean cut and dry here. The controlling your narrative thing is already something to use into your own interpretation. So, like, can we just ride with that? Yeah. Now I don't need to be knowing, like, is there witchcraft involved with this? Because, sir, you just hit the Find My Belt app, and that joint came right back.
And it just came back. Yeah, like what? Again, EC3's promos are really good. Everything that he's done with this controlling your narrative and, you know, and even the way that he views this TNA Heavyweight Championship as it's a false title to a false idol, you know, all of that aligns. That's great. Keep it simple. You don't have to overcomplicate things. Let EC3 be good at being EC3 now. And even I could have, had another week or two where they didn't fight. And we could have waited until Bound for Glory. And that's when we get the confrontation. And I feel like that would have been more money than what we got today, which was just a little, it just didn't vibe for me.
Also, I feel like this is also pointing to a cinematic match, and this is not the one that should be it. So, I'll leave my reserves all for it, but like this whole like unknown location thing, we'll see. The screen didn't freeze. That's just me in my mind saying, what?
I see why, because of the way that this has been set up with EC3. But again, I want to see EC3 in a ring. I think that's the money too. Like that's what we've been waiting for since Slammiversary. Like, why you're gonna keep us waiting even longer to have him in a wrestling ring, especially with Moose? I don't know. I mean, they could pull it off, but also you're denying us of EC3 in a wrestling ring, and that's not cool.
Yeah, all right. This could go either way. Like it was trending upwards rapidly, and then it just kind of fizzled. I didn't want to say fizzled, but it kind of like normalized here with this segment. Like it didn't do nothing added to me. In fact, it gave me more questions and a little bit of doubt, and that's not what you want to do. But yeah, I was very much still on this because I would have hoped that the first time that they actually do confront each other, it would have been like a big wow. It happened at the end of the match. I mean, the end of the night. So it's like I want this to be like the big moment, the big payoff to say like what happens next week. I want more. Instead, I'm like, all right, well, I can't wait till next week because I don't know what just happened now. Like, a little confused here. So, I don't know. All right. Negative, I guess, for me, I was going to go there, but I guess you already,
No, it's a good point. There may be things that I like and things that you didn't like, and that's what this is about. We got this discourse, so let's talk about it because, I thought they were moving in a better direction, but is there still things that, they are missing? Can they salvage this? Yeah. Do you think they can salvage this?
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. I think so, because it's still, for me, it still has a lot of momentum and a lot of, like, curiosity factor as to how is this resolved, because you have to, number one, I mean, you have to remember that the big theme of this is It started with free EC3 to control your narrative to control your narrative Moose to free Moose. And it feels like he's trying to get Moose to, detach from his obligations and commitment to TNA as it's being symbolized through this belt, and saying that you need to take a step forward into the era of Impact and follow my lead here and do what I'm doing. Maybe that's the idea of working wherever. Maybe it's working the indies, and something Moose doesn't do. Very, very rarely can you find Moose on indies. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Again, there's so many things that this could possibly mean. But, again, it has potential to resolve good, but it also has potential to resolve bad just because of how tonight was. It was like, well, this is the big... First of all, let me just go back to last week. The big funeral, please. Funeral of the decade, please. And then, we gave that a pass. I mean, when I say a pass, we definitely should have put our foot in that for like a good 15 minutes. So we gave that a pass. But this one now, it's like, so y'all finally meeting, and Moose, you got all this built up anger, and EC, y'all both cutting good promos, good, but like, hell, throw one of y'all in the water. Like, for real, like. I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. That's where I'm at. I don't know. I mean, I guess we can just kind of talk about really quickly. Next week is Impact Week, so it's going to be some things we're going to be covering from that. Not quite sure how we're going to do that because that's 5 nights of things, and we'll watch it obviously, but I don't think there's like need for us to review every night. Like, I don't think we're going to do that, but we will eventually sum up. Well, I mean, because hell, we'll be busy next week. We got to sum up the week. We have Impact on AXS TV. Then we have Bound for Glory at the weekend. So we got a lot to talk about. We'll get that all packaged up. Good. And then all the matches that's been announced and confirmed, so to say, definitely are looking very, very strong. Oh, well, now I'm not going to revert back to something negative. I'll just stay on this good note. Also, too, Bound for Glory, Call Your Shot Gauntlet is back. Yeah, and we kind of see, the first part of that being done tonight. Basically, if you're not familiar with that, that means, I'm sorry, if you're not familiar with the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, whoever wins it basically gets a chance at any championship in Impact Wrestling. And then now, as you've seen by the 10 person.
Yes.
Tonight.
The 10 man person tag.
I mean, look, guys, let's go with it. That's all I can say. And basically, wherever you think, it's all about Heath. All this is a matter of putting Heath first or putting Heath last. Obviously, Heath's going to go first because he's going to get pinned by Rhino, and Heath is just going to have a good outing, and this is going to prove to him getting a contract. Like, I get it.
Yeah, this is an interesting setup they had where Rhino, shot a shot for Heath with Scott D'Amore, but also this whole, swinging knife above them, which is if they both lose, then, both of them are out. And so that's kind of an interesting thing that's coming out of this. I think kind of an interesting added element to it because it does make the stakes that much higher. It also means that maybe we see some dissension between Heath and Rhino. Yeah. And I wouldn't be mad at that at this point too, because again, we need to see something different with Heath. And so if we see him do something completely different than what he's used to, like going up against one of his best friends, that is something that I am all for. So I agree how this, Impact tradition is kind of being used in a different way, which I don't mind. And it's a great way to kind of showcase, your mid card, which, at this point they wouldn't have a whole lot for them to do. But, again, I hope it's a good match. I hope that it's entertaining. I hope it's fun. But let's see something different with Heath. Come on, they just got to do something different with Heath. Hopefully this is the beginning of it, but who knows? This could be just another long road for Heath to get back into Impact. The same story we've been watching for years, and I'm gonna fast forward on that.
Yep. And this will be my last remark for everything tonight. And now we're getting Eddie Edwards versus Ken Shamrock at Bound for Glory with Sami Callihan as the partner.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. I don't know. It was weird. I mean, we had Ken Shamrock attack Eddie Edwards this week while Sami Callihan was recording it. That's kind of weird. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Not what I imagined Sami Callihan doing. I would think Sami would be participating in beating up Eddie Edwards, but not filming it. I don't know if I like the Sami Callihan.
Yep, words right out of my mouth there.
Not for me.
Oh boy, I have nothing.
Yeah, we're just gonna call it on that. There were some good things.
Yeah.
There's some good things.
Yeah.
Congratulations on having some of the best women's wrestling out there. And then that's the lining. You know, some great people got showcased. Madman Fulton, Nevaeh, Kimber Lee had great showings this week. But let's tidy the house. You know, you have big matches going into Bound for Glory. Your main event. You have the match versus EC3 and Moose. Even, you know, the gauntlet match. Like, take the next few weeks and tidy up your house. Get things in order for Bound for Glory because, you know, they've been able to do that with the momentum from Slammiversary. They've been able to riding high into the fall. You know, they really can try to continue that. You know, let's keep on going. You know, if you build up some interesting storylines and maybe do some pivots as you go into Bound for Glory, maybe, you know, it'll be all right. But there's matches I'm feeling either very, very excited for or don't care for at all. Very polarizing for me right now.
Yep. Well, again, we have how many days?
16.
Why can't I point at you? There we go. That's right. Point at you.
16.
See, you doing it too.
I didn't do.
Yeah, 16 more days for Bound for Glory. Again, we're covering it. And despite this show not being as good as we've seen the previous week, I mean, it is what it is. You know, wrestling not always going to be excellent each week. But we're just here to keep it real, have fun with it, and you know, and definitely give you guys all our thoughts about the show. Hopefully you all have some thoughts because you'll leave them in the comments below. And as you know, as always, we'll be back on Tuesday as it's me and that person right there, Miranda, because I now can point in the right direction. We'll be back each and every week. And then, yeah, of course, we'll be back for Bound for Glory, covering that whole week of content from Impact Wrestling. So, as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, leave some love, some support. Shout out Miranda for all of Miranda's fans down there. Definitely ask her all your questions. And we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Ridiculous.